Get the Friendo Club set up today and get access to over 700 Going In Raw bonus episodes, our monthly Big Blue predictions challenges, and the ability to ask questions at Going In Raw. We also offer the Steven Larson comic book and exclusive Friendo Club t-shirt. Just hit join here at youtube.com/Steven Larson or go to patreon.com/Steven Larson to sign up. Hey, friendo, Steve here.
And Larson.
And welcome back to Going In Raw, the only pro wrestling podcast you need to be listening to on this Countout edition. Today, we're going to be talking dud matches. Not just dud matches, but dream matches that everybody was waiting for, that when you actually watch them, it's like, what is this shit?
Didn't live up to the hype entirely.
Nope. What was the inspiration for this again?
Well, it started because of what CM Punk had to say about wasting matches in AEW, and then we just started going back and forth with ideas for Countout, and just kind of landed on this one.
For some reason, like I think when you pitched me on one of the ideas, I was thinking that Hogan Warrior thing, and I was like, all right, what are matches where people weren't on the same page? And that's not necessarily this, although there's, maybe
Instances
some of that.
Yes.
Yeah, but no, this is just matches where everybody's like, wow, we're so lucky to be getting this match. And then you get the match and it's like, boy, that was a big stinker. So let's go ahead and dive into it, Larson, with number 10. The Undertaker versus Roman Reigns. Of course, this is at WrestleMania 33, and the build to this match was all about who owns land. This is my yard. No,
well, it wasn't literal. It wasn't, a land right issue.
No, it was about like a yard. It was like, so whose yard?
But it was a metaphorical yard, not a literal yard.
Oh shit! I thought there was like
hey,
a plot.
Your new fence is encroaching on my property line. It wasn't that. No.
Oh man, I thought this was all about border rights.
Nope, none of that. This is
border
all
dispute.
about who the metaphorical yard WWE is. Because for years, it was the Undertaker. He said, "This is my yard," and Roman's like, "Nah, I'm the dude now. I'm top guy. Yeah. Therefore, the trust deed's in my name now."
Right? Yeah. So who owns the land of WWE? I don't entirely understand it, but what I do understand is we were there for this match, Larson, and not a terribly good match. It's a really long match. It's like 27 minutes long or something.
Yeah, it's very long, and
which doesn't make a bad match unless it's this.
I'm trying to find a way to say this diplomatically. The Undertaker physically wasn't at the point where he should be wrestling long matches anymore.
No, his
body had broken down to such a degree. There were several instances in this match where things that traditionally he could do fairly easily, he just had a lot of wear and tear on that body, and unfortunately, physically, he couldn't do a lot of the same things he was used to doing. Was having a hard time at moments keeping up with Roman's athleticism. And the crowd was not into it. It was not a good match, even though Meltzer gave it 3 stars. It's extremely generous to Dave.
Mel, I kind of gather that, number one, it fulfills one of his criteria for more stars, and that's length. It was a long match. It was also a match that felt like it should be important at the time, because Undertaker at the end had every intention on retiring. He did the boots and the duster and the hat, laid him there in the middle of the ring, and we were like, wow, we're witnessing some history here. Might have been kind of a crap match. There was like one particular sequence where they Roman counters, I think, a tombstone into basically just 2 dudes falling over.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty messy, slow, plodding match. But, I'm not terribly surprised that he gave it up to 3 stars, simply because the magnitude of the match, I think, sort of maybe carried some weight with it. But then in retrospect, when you go back and look and you see, because I watched, his after the match reaction in the ensuing, moments and days on the Last Ride document. It was Last Ride? Is that what it was? Yeah. On the Last Ride documentary. And it was pretty clear, watching it back, he was incredibly unsatisfied with this match. And so he tried and tried and tried again to retire on his own terms. The problem was all of his matches after this were crap. He had like another half-hour one with Triple H in Saudi Arabia a year later.
Yeah.
The Goldberg Saudi Arabia match was after this.
We'll get to that later.
and of course, the one match that he was actually satisfied with ending his career was a short film.
Yeah.
So,
I will say this: the no holds barred tag match, where it was him and Roman against Drew and Shane McMahon, if memory serves, as Extreme Rules 2019, wasn't bad.
I remember. Okay, now that you mention that, I remember saying that on our review.
Yeah.
Again, though, it's having one decent tag match amongst, a batch of just sort of, no, probably shouldn't have done any of these. The fact that he was trying to retire,
Yeah.
and something, on par with at least the magnitude of this match. Was it a stinker? It just wasn't good. It's not like it was. I don't necessarily consider this Roman Undertaker match like awful. It just wasn't particularly good. I think he probably could have retired on this match and been fine. He would have been leaving several $1 million on the table because those Saudi matches pay handsomely.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of him being satisfied with the end of his career, I still say you go back to end of an era, which was 5 years preceding this.
Yeah.
As probably the last time that he was like, oh wow, he can still really go to the degree that he needs to complete a really killer career. He did the thing where he put Brock over 2 years later. He beat Punk, Bray Wyatt. And then we land on this one. And, I think he did Cena the next year in that 3-minute match.
Yeah, it was a squash match, yeah.
This is barely a match at all.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this, Brock beating him at WrestleMania for the streak kind of was as much as you're going to get out of beating Undertaker at WrestleMania at that point, because it was the streak.
Yeah.
And after that, it was like, well, Punk didn't do it. And even if he did, at that point, Brock had already done it. So it's like now he's in that phase where he's trying to put people over. And I think this was supposed to mean something. And in the end, like it really didn't. It was just another. Do you disagree with that?
Well, no, I don't disagree. But I think if they had stick to the initial plans of this being Undertaker's last match.
Oh, and would have done more for Roman.
And then, I don't know if it would necessarily done more for Roman. It would have been maybe approaching the impact of Brock ending the streak. Because, Brock ended the streak, but hey, Roman Reigns, he retired the Undertaker.
Yeah, I could see that.
And then you have the bit on Raw the following night, which opened Roman Reigns comes to the ring. We were there for that too.
It was fun.
Where it's like 7-8 minutes of the crowd just booing.
Yeah.
Roman. He just says, it's my yard now, and leaves. Mm-hmm. It was really effective.
It was, yeah.
And if that had been it, then I think maybe, not in terms of the quality of the match still wasn't good, but in terms of comparing, losses in terms of Undertaker's career, monumental ones, I think maybe then they might be on.
I think you have a good point. And I think one thing that validates that is his match with Brock was crap, because he was concussed 3 minutes or whatever, however long it was into
Pretty shortly into it.
Wasn't a great match, but it was a magnitude of a moment. It was a huge, huge moment. So yeah, probably the kind of thing where could have been a big deal, but the quality of the match and Undertaker, especially not being happy with the quality of the match, might have, did a disservice to the rest of it.
Well, the impact legacy, I think it was supposed to have. Yeah, the legacy of it.
Yeah. Oh boy, we're gonna get some heat for this next one, Larson.
That's fine.
Let's go with number 9.
9.
Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant at WrestleMania 3.
So you got to separate the historical impact of a particular match from the quality of said match. If you watch this match in a bubble, it's not very good. Andre is not in good shape physically.
No, he's in terrible shape.
So the quality of the match suffers because of that. Add to that, Hogan is not a very good wrestler.
Yeah.
You're getting by solely on the star power of the two participants here and the scale and the scope in which this match takes place, which is the Pontiac Silverdome with anywhere between 78,000 people and 93,000 people inside.
Right, yeah.
And part of it is like, in terms of a single moment that encapsulates the quick ascent of rock and wrestling era WWE, that's WrestleMania 3, where they went from, just 4 years prior, not even really being a national company to selling maybe nearly 100,000 tickets.
Yeah, right.
For a wrestling show.
3/4 of that, sure.
You can't diminish the importance of WrestleMania 3 as a show and what it meant.
And this moment for sure, because
Absolutely.
this was,
the main event of said event. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the match wasn't good.
The match was crap. Did you see what Dave Meltzer gave this match?
-4 stars, yeah.
I went back and I watched it. It's a 12-minute match, and
Yeah.
6 of it is hugging.
Yeah.
There's a lot of hugging in this match. There's one moment where Hogan totally, and again, Larson, I'm going to press you on this, buddy. One day we got to do that video.
Oh, yeah.
Just like 10 minutes into this match, Hogan decides to try and pile drive Andre the Giant onto the floor with no padding. He rips away the padding, and Monsoon's like, "Oh, the exposed concrete." And you could see clearly. Maybe it's different now because we have, nicer monitors than we had back then.
Oh, but it was pretty clear it was wood, huh?
It's very clear that it's wood.
But maybe underneath that wood was hard concrete, Steve.
That's what I'm probably thinking is the case. But that soft wood is going to... No, look, it would have been terrible regardless, but all of a sudden Hogan's like, I'm going to go heel on this guy. He starts ripping away the padding. Of course, Andre gets a back body drop instead. And they go back in the ring. A lot more hugging. Eventually, Hogan gets Andre off his feet with a devastating lariat, as we've seen, of course, in WCW NWO World Tour. That will fell any man.
Absolutely.
And then he took him out of it. He did the body slam thing. He took him down with a leg drop, 1, 2, 3, and so he wins the day and keeps his title. And according to Hulk Hogan, he didn't know if Andre was going to do the job for him. I think Vince McMahon was playing Hogan a little bit on that one. But the moment, the magnitude. I'm kind of surprised that Meltzer gave it -4 stars because it does have the magnitude.
Yeah.
And the heat was fucking real. The reaction, this crowd of anywhere between 78,000 people and 93,000 people was off the charts.
Yeah.
They love this shit. But not a lot of Canadian destroyers in this match.
Well, it doesn't need a lot of Canadian destroyers. It just needs, decent wrestling and good drama.
I mean, those people seem to think there was some good drama here, but in a vacuum, this match is crap, dude.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good.
No, it's
not.
not.
You can't deny his historical importance, but at the same time, you can admit that it's not a good match.
Well, let's talk about historical importance with this next one. Number 8. Antonio Inoki versus Muhammad Ali. Now, dude, one of the biggest stars globally in the history of pro wrestling, Antonio Inoki, and one of the most well-known, maybe the most well-known person on planet Earth at the time, Muhammad Ali, decide, hey, you know what? Muhammad Ali is looking to expand his repertoire a little bit and get an exhibition going with Antonio Inoki, a wrestler. And so the huge buildup for this match. They lay out some, they're negotiating the rules literally up until days before the match. Originally, apparently, this match was going to be super fakey.
Yeah, over here, like a scripted match, pro wrestling match.
It was going to be a scripted match. Yeah, exactly. Make both guys look good. I think one of the agreed upon things that stuck, though, was the draw aspect of it. In the days leading up to the match, apparently Muhammad Ali was like, I don't really want to do scripted. So, we'll work elements of it, but, let's make this proper. I'm going to box, you're going to wrestle, and we're going to, basically invent MMA.
Yeah.
And so we proceed to the match, and the rules for this match, here are like the basic ones. So both men are allowed punches on their feet and on the ground. So, boxing, throwing hands. Greco-Roman takedowns are fine, and most judo takedowns are allowed, emphasizing the wrestling aspect of it. No leg holds are allowed. A fight can be won by a knockout or a pin, a 3-second pin. The ref does not do a count, though, for knockdowns. And then grabbing the ropes resets both fighters. There are additional rules, including opponents, when you're down on the ground, can kick up.
Well, it was that. So I have a thing here from BBC. It says there's some additional rules agreed upon. You couldn't tackle.
Okay, yeah.
So no takedowns, I guess.
Okay.
No grappling and no standing kicks. And that is why Inoki employed the strategy of sitting on his butt in the ring and kicking up.
Because you can do that.
Yeah.
And then later on, he even does standing kicks, but he's not supposed to, but he does because he's just sort of flustered. So most of this match is him basically in like the crab walk position, just kicking the living shit out of Muhammad Ali's legs.
Yeah.
And Ali just kind of doesn't know what to do with that. And so that's basically the match. You know, at a certain point, Inoki does get up and he's able to sort of grab at Ali for trying to give him a judo throw. But Ali grabs onto the ropes each time he does that. So what does Inoki do? He gets back into the crab position. He starts throwing more kicks at him. By the end, the crowd just started shouting, "Give me my money back."
Yeah.
They were shouting for refunds, dude.
Yeah. All these legs were all busted up.
Yeah, apparently, like one of them, like the left leg was infected, got an infection at some point. There were murmurs of possible amputation. Ali later denied that it got that severe, so who knows?
Who knows?
But this was not a good match, not a good exhibition. Bizarrely, both men became really close friends after the fact for decades afterwards.
Yeah. Went 15 rounds of this, of Inoki sitting on the ground doing up kicks, essentially.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Devastating up kicks, though.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, you kick someone's leg repeatedly. Like, what can they do? You need your legs for punching power.
Yeah. This might be the most handsome match that I've ever seen, though, because both men, Inoki, who's just an immaculately beautiful man, Muhammad Ali as well, very charismatic, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, when you think of these two absolute gods in combat sports, and this is the match that we get,
I know.
It's like, what is this shit?
Yeah.
So yeah, pretty disappointing.
No, it was an interesting kind of early stage, or kind of the very beginning stages of what would be MMA, but seeing it in its very early stages, it's not kind of like strategically as cohesive as it is these days.
Right. Yeah.
You know. Yeah. And this was Ali was just like 8 months out of the third Joe Frazier fight too.
Okay. Yeah.
To give it a time frame for everybody. So
yeah, pretty lame, Millhouse. Anyways, before we continue on, we do have a sponsor for today's show, Larson. So let's talk to the people about our sponsor today.
Let's do it. Let's take a break here. Get a word from the sponsor of today's show, Tecovas. You know, Steve. Holidays approaching quickly. Holidays are making me feel nostalgic, a bit sentimental of late. I've been thinking about these Western boots I wore all the time when I was a kid. I might have even got them for Christmas. I don't remember. I do remember I wore them so much I wore out the outsoles on them. But here's the thing. I don't think that adult Larson could pull off wearing Western boots now.
Man, you know, you've said that before, but personally, I do think you could totally rock some Western boots from Tecovas. Tecovas crafts quality Western boots for everybody, from ranchers to cowboys to pro wrestling podcasters. That's right, first-time boot buyers like yourself, Larson. Every pair of Tecovas boots are handcrafted with over 200 steps for broken-in comfort, so they're going to feel right out of the box. Plus, the reviews for Tecovas are off the charts. Reviewer after reviewer mentions that they fit great, they're comfortable, and they're easy to put on. Heck, Esquire said in their review, there's a reason we keep coming back to Tecovas. And with Tecovas Best in the West guarantee, you get free returns and exchanges for 30 days.
Sounds like I owe it to my feet to pull on a pair of Tecovas. Right now, get 10% off at tecovas.com/raw when you sign up for email and text. That's 10% off at tecovas.com/raw. tecovas.com/raw. See site for details. Tecovas. Point your toes west.
All right, man. Let's go ahead and move on with the next one, and that would be number 7.
7.
AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura at WrestleMania 34. Now,
I got a question for you before we get into this.
Yeah, what's your question?
Have you watched Nakamura versus Kota Ibushi yet?
I don't know what that has to do with anything, Larson.
Well, I know you're really fond of AJ Styles versus Nakamura at Wrestle Kingdom. It's one of your favorite matches.
It's a great match.
It is a very good match. But whenever we talk about that match, my question immediately thereafter is, have you seen Nakamura versus Kota Ibushi? I'm getting that out of the way right now.
Nope. Haven't seen it yet.
Better watch it.
It's on my bucket list. One day when I'm like, man, I got nothing else to watch, I'm going to pop that on so I know I've got something of quality.
Lucky for you, in the next 2 days, you got nothing to do. I'm going to be out of town.
You think your absence leaves me with nothing to do? Man, I got so much lined up. I got so much work lined up.
If I'm not here, then you're just like,
what am I supposed to do with myself?
You're like that John Travolta gift from Pulp Fiction where you're standing there looking around.
What's going on here? Yeah, I'll check that one out. But let's talk about AJ Styles versus Shinsuke. As you mentioned, dude, Wrestle Kingdom, their match. Boy, oh boy, what a phenomenal match that was.
Very good.
Dave Meltzer gave that one 4 3/4 stars. I might have given it 5 stars. I don't know. This one here at WrestleMania, we were looking forward to. Of course, it was a big moment. Shinsuke won the Royal Rumble, and it was like, wow, Vince McMahon actually, he's pushing one of Levesque's guys. This could be a big deal. We're going to get AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura at WrestleMania. Holy shit, in the mid-card at that. Because Brock versus Roman.
Yeah, it was the main event. Yeah,
was the main. It was the shitty one where Brock.
They were just spamming the finisher button over and over again.
That was horrible. Everybody was told in the lead up to that Roman was going to go over, and then the day of course, they just flipped the script.
Yeah.
Anyways, getting back to AJ versus Shinsuke, this is when the WWE title was obviously second tier compared to the Brock Universal title, but still, it'd been cool for Shinsuke to be one of the brand's champions. And this match just didn't live up. It really didn't.
The bar was set so high with the Wrestle Kingdom match. I mean, I understand it's WWE. You're not going to get necessarily the same hard-hitting style in WWE that you are in New Japan necessarily.
But the counter to that is Shinsuke was doing the cool shit in NXT. Shinsuke had a 5-star match or whatever against Sami Zayn in NXT.
Debut. I know. He had a lot of good matches in NXT. I don't have an explanation.
The talent is there, There
was this stretch, and I don't know what it was. It was this feud because this wasn't their only match. And then AJ Styles' feud with Kevin Owens for the U.S. title.
Right.
That were both so underwhelming given the talent, the high level of talent involved.
Yeah.
Literally the only thing noteworthy that came out of this match, Nakamura versus Styles at Mania 34, was Nakamura's heel turn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Low blowing AJ after the match after AJ won, but then the entire story after that was low blows.
It was, yeah.
Who's going to get the low blow on the other person? That was the extent of it felt like.
It's crazy that, because you're absolutely right, this and the Kevin Owens feuds were just like, what is this stuff we're being given? Given that AJ, number one, had already put on any number, like his feud with John Cena.
Great.
In 2016, was it, I think?
Yeah, 2016.
Yielded some amazing results, some really terrific matches. So many of what AJ was involved in over the years was up to his standards, Yeah. And then, you get to the two guys that you're really thinking to yourself, oh boy, they are going to cook. We're going to be eating good. And then they just sort of put on, I don't know if it's a matter of overthinking things. I don't know if it's a matter of it, like you said. I mean, it could be, the WWE element creeping in, the main roster element, but it's like him and Cena put on a barn burner at that SummerSlam we went to. Yeah. That was just it was a terrific match.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the deal was here.
Like, part of it, I wonder the mechanics of putting these matches together. Obviously, there's agents and producers that work on putting the matches together with the talent.
Right.
And I'm guessing, I don't know for sure, I'm just assuming that there is a directive from creative regarding what story beats are going to be advanced during this match. And then it's the producer or the agent's job primarily to make sure that story is told within that match. And I don't know how much input in the WWE the wrestlers have in terms of all that. And, I imagine some have a lot, some may not have that much at all.
Yeah.
At least in terms of the major story beats, transitions between those story beats, maybe talent have more involvement in, because some of that they might call in the ring very well. So I just don't know, but it was a situation where whoever happened to produce this match, and I'm sure that information is out there, just didn't work the story beats into the strengths of their respective competitors, and they get something that's just kind of all right, rather than, a match of the year contender.
Yeah. No, that could very well be. Too many cooks in the kitchen could be the situation here. I'm really curious about it. You want to know, just, we're very curious about process, especially with, wrestlers that we're really, really into. It's like, I always go back to that one Sports Illustrated behind the scenes of one of the New Japan shows, where it was like the Young Bucks against like LIJ. It was Naito.
It was a Ring of Honor show, and it was a Rolling Stone article.
Oh, it was Rolling Stone. I don't know why I said
it was Rolling Stone. It was
right.
LIJ and the Young Bucks. I believe at a Ring of Honor show. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're backstage or in a hotel room, I think, something, and they're like going over the match, and obviously there is a little bit of a language barrier, but they're communicating just fine in terms of like, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. That stuff is always interesting. We're lucky enough to be backstage at Action Coast Wrestling, just witnessing, wrestlers go through the stuff on the indie level is awesome as well. It's a fascinating process, and it's sort of interesting to understand how two guys who had such tremendous results in one place, in 20 minutes, I'm looking at the thing, it was 20 minutes and 20 seconds, put on something that's kind of mid. Meltzer gave this 3 3/4 stars, 1 full star below where they were at Wrestle Kingdom. So I don't know, kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Let's move on to number 6. The Usos against each other. Jay versus Jimmy at this past year's WrestleMania 40.
Yeah. I don't know what Dave gave this one. I don't think we were too kind in our star ratings for it. I'm sure I can look it up here in a second. Perhaps I will after we do a little background. Of course, this was part of the Friendo the Bloodline aspect of the larger Bloodline saga. And given the amount of story that was, and it still is, in details and characterization and subtlety and nuance, that is what?
3/4 of a star.
Dave gave this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't very good.
No, it was not.
Especially with the expectations, given everything that had happened prior to this, in terms of the story being told. Yeah. And they go in there, and I think Jay talked about they had time cut from the match. And it's a pretty standard match, and there's just like one moment of story beyond, the traditional aspects of a pro wrestling match, where Jay has the advantage. Jimmy's like, hey, please stop. I'm sorry. But it was a ruse, and Jimmy used it to gain the advantage and hit a super kick and a splash. But Jay ended up winning. Like, given the story going into this should feel heavy and dramatic.
Yeah. And
with tons of weight to it. And it just it wasn't at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was it was a letdown in that respect. The actual match, whether it was truncated or not, just didn't live up to expectations.
And you got to think that they're the brothers are probably the most disappointed in it. You would think. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they're like, hey, we did what we could.
No, I've read something that Jay just had an interview today saying that, we want to run that back. We want to do it again.
Oh,
we
really?
Know we could have stole the show. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's interesting. So I'm looking at the newsletter itself. Jimmy versus Jay in the worst match poll, easily won with 213 votes. Only 32 was given to another match, and 25 given to the main event. Well, that match was awesome.
Interesting.
I'm trying to see what Meltzer actually said about it here in his write-up. But yeah, he gave it a big old stinker of a rating there. It said they had a tremendous video package built around them being my brother's keeper before the match. It was actually far better than the match itself. The crowd wasn't into this as a match, but they did chant yeet. Creative failed in this match, and really it was the only one in 2 days where they did. Jay had Jimmy ready for a super kick, but Jimmy begged off and wanted to make up. Nobody in the crowd bought this, which made Jay look like a total goof for falling for it. Jimmy said he was sorry. Fans were booing this. It seemed like such a
such a truncated version. I mean, they gave it 11 minutes. So, but like, still, you could do a lot more with this story in 11 minutes.
Oh yeah.
You know, so yeah, this is disappointing all around.
We each gave it 2 stars.
Okay. Yeah. The 3/4 of a star, that's harsh.
It is very harsh.
You know, I mean, they had a match.
I mean, it wasn't like terrible. Like, they executed what they were supposed to do well enough. Just what they were supposed to do wasn't very good.
Yeah. Anyways, talking about not very good, let's move on to number 5.
5.
Goldberg versus Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 20.
You know, both Brock and Goldberg were out the door. It was well known they were leaving.
Yeah, everybody knew.
So I would understand if they weren't exactly 100% invested, especially once the crowd starts dumping all over the match immediately.
Yeah, this is one of those where it looked like the crowd... It was one of those weird, like, perfect storms of, like, okay, everybody in the crowd, bizarrely, because this is 2004. I know, like, you know, the internet was around, dirt sheets existed. But, like, you know, it's not like it is now where everybody's on their phone looking at shit.
Yeah.
But, like, everybody in the audience knew.
Yeah.
They all knew both these guys were gone. But there was one guy in the ring that everybody liked, and that was Stone Cold Steve Austin. And so they finished this appropriately. I think he gave stunners to everybody.
Yeah, he did. He did.
Yeah. And that was like the lone thing that everybody was like, oh, yeah, we got some stunners. Nice.
Yeah. Because you watch the match itself, it's not great, but it's not like a massive stinker. It's the atmosphere that really brings it down, because everybody just dumps on it.
Yeah.
At every opportunity they get.
Yeah.
They're live. Again, it's not great, but I've seen far worse matches than this one.
Yeah, it is. It really is. It's not like both guys didn't know how to wrestle. You know, I mean, Goldberg's not great and everything, but like, you know,
more on that later.
Yeah, yeah, right. Dave gave this 1 1/4 stars, so he actually gave this a better rating than Jimmy versus Jay 20 years later.
That's interesting.
He called this a basic power match. It built well, except it didn't. Goldberg pressed Lesnar. Let's see here. Austin as a ref seemed amused by the crowd reaction, and when the crowd caught that, they began chanting for him. He wasn't involved until the finish. He says a lot of the wrestlers backstage were more than amused watching the two guys leave and get booed out of the place. That's pretty funny.
I got some quotes here from Goldberg when he was on Broken Skull Sessions talking about WrestleMania 20. That's what he had to say. His transcript comes from Fightful. It says, Vince hated me a little less than he did Brock. I guess Goldberg ended up winning the match. Mm-hmm. Says, I thought Brock was going to kill me because he was so mad at everybody else that I thought he was going to take it out on me. He says, we should have gone into the crowd and started tagging people.
Wow.
He continues, says, weird is an understatement. Did not sit well with me for a long period of time. I had nothing but animosity towards the WWE and anybody and everybody associated with it. I had my friends that were excluded from that. It was a really bad taste in my mouth. I spent the whole year there being defensive, and it translated as offensive. In all honesty, I just want everybody to get along. I just want to be part of a team. Give me some responsibility. I can tow it. It felt like they had accomplished what they had wanted to accomplish for years, completely discount what I had gained prior to WWE. I mean, he won the title pretty much immediately after he showed up.
Didn't he? They treated him like a huge deal there.
Yeah, they did.
My goodness. He likes to complain, that guy.
He does.
You know, it's like, hey, whatever. I'm not going to get into it.
But, you know, hey, if he wasn't happy, he wasn't happy.
Yeah.
You know?
Did the check not clear or something? Is that what happened? Did he not make a shit ton of money doing like 2 moves?
I don't know.
Maybe not. Anyways.
What did Dave give this? 1 1/4?
Gave this 1 1/4.
Yeah, that's probably about right.
He said they were throwing, let's see here. Post-match, Goldberg hit a spear and jackhammer. Post-match saw Lesnar flip off the crowd, which likely wasn't planned. In the ring, it was clear Lesnar wasn't happy about the crowd, and he showed it. Goldberg, who's more used to it, was laughing about it. Clown on the outside, sad on the inside, I guess.
I guess so.
Lesnar then flipped off Austin, clearly as planned, and Austin gave him a stunner. They were throwing all the beers to Austin. He was dropping a few. Goldberg came back and they toasted each other, but Austin ended up giving Goldberg a goodbye stunner. This match was the shits. I give it a dud except for Austin's involvement.
Why did you do that?
And why did you do that? Lesnar, why would you pissed off at the crowd? They thought this match was the shits.
All right, let's move. Oh man, more Lesnar. Let's talk
Yep.
about number 4.
Or
Brock Lesnar versus Dean Ambrose.
oh wow, where to start with this one?
What's he been saying in AEW lately? Abandon all hope.
Yeah.
Abandon all hope. This match is going to be good, Mox.
Yeah, that's what Brock should have told Ambrose. I mean, as Ambrose tells it again, Broken Skull Sessions. Ambrose is talking like this was going to be his masterpiece, his magnum opus. And I think there was a certain level of expectation given Brock's style taking on someone like Dean Ambrose, who could bring a little mayhem to the proceedings. That it could be an interesting clash of styles. But according to Ambrose, Brock wanted nothing to do with any of his ideas. John Moxley, sorry. Nothing to do with any of his ideas. Nothing. He'd give him an idea, it'd be shot down. And so apparently Mox went into the match just pissed off.
Mm-hmm.
And they had those bits where like Mox would go to like Terry Funk, and Terry Funk would be like, here's a weapon to use against Brock. And I think Mick Foley was another person. Mm-hmm. And there's that one instance where Mox has the wagon full of weapons. And then like there was a couple, I think like a kendo stick shot or two, or like a suplex on chairs or something like that. And that was kind of the extent of it.
That was it, man. Here's the thing about Brock Lesnar. This has become very clear. This dude likes 2 types of wrestlers. Big jack dudes who he can have monster matches with, or little tiny, very flippy guys who he can have the David and Goliath type matches with, where he sells because they're trying to chop down the big tree. Mm-hmm. And then in the end, he gives them like a couple F5s. And then that's it. He lawn darts him maybe. And that's it. That's it. He doesn't like anything else. He doesn't like anything else. He likes those matches.
Yeah.
I mean, unless he likes you, he likes John Cena. So, they put on some probably decent matches. But yeah, no, if he, and Mox just seems, I don't know. You can sort of understand, having been witness to Brock Lesnar's career, this probably was doomed from the start. Well,
yeah.
Brock is going to get along with a CZW guy? No, man, that doesn't sound right. He's not going to want to wrestle a dude who's just in jeans. That just doesn't sound right, So this isn't terribly surprising.
It's not. It was a bummer end to a really good stretch for Mox.
Oh, yeah.
Because preceding this, he had that great match with Triple H at Roadblock.
Right, yeah.
He had a great showing in the Rumble.
Mm-hmm.
Going into this, it felt like Ambrose his character had a bunch of momentum.
Yeah. Yeah, his 2016 or his 2015, 2016 was really, really strong.
Yeah, it was. He was champion for a spell in 2016. So it felt like, all right, even in a loss, if it was a good, creative, fun match, the Ambrose character could get something out of this.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But it was none of those things. It wasn't good, it wasn't interesting, and it wasn't fun.
No, it's just
it felt like it felt like Brock was there out of obligation. It's like, I'm just there to get my check for the day. Mm-hmm. I'm going to put in the bare minimum of effort, and then I'm out.
Yeah, yeah. Brock really did not seem like he wanted to be doing this at all. And, of course, Brock's the guy who leaves, and Ambrose is the guy who sticks around. And, Ambrose could have got something out of this if he beat Brock. But, I get it. At the time, Brock was like the thing,
Yeah.
So I guess it makes sense. That 32 WrestleMania was a dog shit show.
It wasn't a good show. No.
It was not good. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Anyways, let's move on to number 3.
3.
Oh, Undertaker versus Goldberg in Saudi Arabia. This is Super Showdown.
Oh yeah, this is Saudi Arabia show. Sorry.
Super Showdown
Australia, but this was.
I think only the first Super Showdown was Australia.
That's correct.
And then they went to Saudi Arabia because it was like super hot there. And Goldberg blamed that, along with him concussing himself, hitting his head on a door intentionally.
Not just concussing himself, knocking himself out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So apparently there's a Chris Van Vliet interviewed both Undertaker and Goldberg talked to them both about this match during their respective interviews with them. And Goldberg is very candid that, he knocked himself out. He says like he forgot the mechanics by which he would get himself fired up for matches. That's how he puts it. Like he had been out of the rhythm long enough that what was a habit, when he was doing it every day, which I hope he wasn't just banging his head against the door every day before every match. That he had gotten out of that habit and had to find a way to bring the intensity. And so I guess he headbutted the door really hard and knocked himself out.
That sounds
the match
stupid.
even started.
That sounds really stupid. I would like to think, in my heart of hearts, this is just Steve here, okay? I'd like to think that that's pure bullshit. What actually happened was he put one leg through his trunks, and he did the thing, and his toe gets caught on the other leg.
And so he's losing balance. Yeah.
And he loses balance and he knocks himself out. That's probably more likely than what he's saying.
I mean, regardless of what led to it, the result was the same. He went out to that ring concussed.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And he's talking about how at one point, I don't know if it's before or after he concussed himself the second time, knocked himself out the second time during the match, where the ref's asking him, hey, are you all right? And at first he says yes. So the ref turns their back, and then Bill said, and I went, no. Yes.
Jesus
no.
Christ almighty.
But this is one that it's a situation where obviously the match should have been stopped because Bill had no business wrestling any of it, especially after he rung his bell the second time. Because they do the corner spot where, again, he says, well, if I'm going to be hurt in the match, I really want to make it look like I really get hurt. Sometimes I go too far and actually hurt myself. So he goes head first into the ring post and busts himself open and concusses himself again. Match should have been stopped right there.
Yeah.
It's a tough spot because it's a first time ever match. I guess it's a dream match in some people's eyes.
Yeah, sure. I mean,
main event
like
for a show where the company is making a ton of money.
Yeah.
It's a tough spot still nonetheless for the safety. This is the one thing about this match is this is one of the matches on the list where I actually felt like somebody's health and well-being was in danger. It got to the point where it was undeniably unsafe because Goldberg, his bell had been rung twice. Undertaker talks in in an interview with Chris Van Vliet how, given the downtime between his matches and his physical condition, that he wasn't as good about adjusting to things or on the fly as he was earlier in his career, where he could assess the situation here with Goldberg, obviously double concussed. All right, let's do this instead to make sure that we all get out of this match on our feet.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so he says he just wasn't able to do that. So they just went through it as booked, where Undertaker pretty much got dropped on his head during a jackhammer. And then Undertaker hit Bill with the tombstone, and that look on his face after he gets the pinfall win, I will never forget. Just anger and disappointment.
Yeah. Yeah. Not
and
happy.
kind of relief that, all right, we escaped this match without anybody getting seriously hurt.
So I appreciate this. I'm looking at the newsletter here. The actual title of this edition of the newsletter is June 17th, 2019 Observer Newsletter, Scary Incidents in the Ring. Because apparently something also happened in New Japan. I forget which one it was. But it starts out talking about this match. Both men collapsed when they went backstage. It says it was believed Goldberg suffered a concussion early on. Yeah, what happened in New Japan? Oh. Apparently something with Kota Ibushi happened. Yeesh. I'm trying to see what he gave this match. Like, he might have just not even rated it. I don't know.
Entirely possible.
Let's see here. Usos versus Revival. That's cool. Here we go. Dud. Gave it a dud.
Yeah, 0.
Gave it a dud.
Yeah.
0.
Yeah. You know, match between these two in their primes, obviously it would have been more interesting. But this, by the end of it, you're just thinking, please, I don't want to see anybody get horribly injured during this match, because that seemed to be the trajectory they were on.
Yeah, absolutely. I do remember we went to, I think you were having like a get together, a barbecue or something, and Hilton was there. And he was like, dude, and I was like, look at this match, and I loaded up my phone, and we all watched it, and we we're all just cracking up. Because it is funny.
Yeah, because no one got hurt, seriously.
Because nobody got hurt. Yeah, exactly. And it's Goldberg. Anyways, let's go ahead and move on now to number 2. Hollywood Hulk Hogan versus the Ultimate Warrior at Halloween Havoc 1998.
You know, it kind of boggles my mind how Hogan and Warrior managed to put together a relatively compelling match at WrestleMania 6.
Sure, yeah.
Neither of them are the most accomplished in-ring technicians.
Yeah.
And I guess based on star power and charisma and atmosphere, they somehow managed to put together a relatively entertaining, 25-minute bout in the main event of WrestleMania 6.
Yeah.
Whatever magic was in the ring that night was most decidedly not in the ring at Halloween Havoc 98, where it seemed like Hogan was wrestling one match and Warrior was wrestling a completely different one.
I think I know why, though. I'm about to do something I really am not comfortable doing, but I'm going to do it anyways because, somebody has to do it around here, Larson. Somebody's got to be brave. I'm going to praise Hulk Hogan. It's not really praise. It's Hogan, I think, understood that, for example, losing to Goldberg is better for Hogan. He understood that he can lose a match and find a way to get an even bigger paycheck down the line. He understood that. Warrior, I don't think ever did. So, when they did the Toronto match, Hogan understood, I see where things are headed, and I've got faith that Hulkamania will run wild again. And this Ultimate Warrior guy is a flash in the pan. And that was true. A year later, he was back on top. Fast forward to Halloween Havoc. The whole point of Halloween Havoc was for Hulk Hogan to get that win back, right? There was nothing in it for Warrior to beat him again. Warrior didn't see it that way. Warrior was still like, hey, I'm here. I want to do things my way. Now, I think he understood no matter what, he'd have to lose, but he wanted to, I guess, try to look good doing it, which was not a priority for Hulk Hogan, right? And so you have two men wrestling completely different matches. And I think that's why. I think because along the way, like in Toronto, Hogan realized, yeah, dude, I can't fight this. I have to be savvy here and live to fight another day. And he did. And that's why his career is so much more impressive on paper, monetarily, whatever you want to call it, successful than Ultimate Warriors was, because Hogan was savvy.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think you're onto something there.
Yeah, man.
This match is garbage. Absolute garbage.
It's a terrible match.
And it went long, and so the actual main event got preempted from the pay-per-view they showed on Nitro the next night.
Yeah. Was that DDP Goldberg, I think?
Yeah. And that was actually a good match.
Are you surprised? Isn't it weird that Hogan and Warrior didn't main event?
I guess Hogan's influence in terms of creative control only went so far, Steve.
Was he so savvy that he knew that it was going to go long? So he was like, I'm not going to be cut.
I mean, it might not even be a savvy thing. He's like, well, I'm in the ring. They're not going to kick me out.
Yeah. Hogan was savvy. He was a savvy guy.
No, he was. You can't deny that.
You can't deny that shit.
No, you can't.
Anyways, let's move on now. I'm tired of talking about Hulk Hogan, man. Let's move on to number one, Larson.
Sure, let's move on to number one.
Hulk Hogan versus Sting at Starrcade 1997.
I would have thought.
Talk about savvy.
This might be the opposite of savvy, though. So before this match in 97, I would have thought that Hogan and Sting would have crossed paths multiple times. Mm-hmm. Because at that point, Hogan had been in WCW 3 years, so you'd think they'd have two of their largest stars wrestle. They wrestled once prior to this. 96, I want to say. On an episode of Nitro, it was a no contest.
That sounds right.
But obviously, it wasn't Hollywood Hogan. It wasn't Crow Sting.
Yeah, right.
Maybe it was Hollywood Hogan. I didn't check the date. So effectively, this is the first time that these characters faced off in the ring together in an actual match.
Yeah.
And the story is there. Mm-hmm. See, this seems like one of those opportunities where Hogan a la Warrior at WrestleMania 6, can see where things are going.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to see the story come to its conclusion and then know when to strike to get yourself back involved. Mm-hmm. And it seemed like Hogan was afraid that things were going to run away from him here after losing the Sting and was trying to put the brakes on it.
Seemed like it, huh? Yeah.
You know, because when you take 18 months to build a story that's got a logical conclusion.
You got to pay
And
it
if
off.
you don't do that, it's going to be a huge detriment to your company, the fan base trust and faith in how you approach your creative. Because people invested a lot of time in the story, and Hogan tried to take it away from them.
Yeah, man.
And what we got was a mediocre match with a finish that was completely nonsensical. Mm-hmm. Instead of getting a conclusive, decisive win for Sting, they had the fast count that wasn't a fast count because Hogan was politicking, so Nick Patrick wouldn't count fast, so Hogan looked like he won. And then you had Bret Hart for some reason coming out and restarting the match and then calling for the bell when Hogan actually tapped the Scorpion Deathlock. It made no sense.
It didn't. And what's wild is that, like, it really does seem like Hogan. And it's so funny how they try, like, Bischoff and Hogan try to do the thing where it's like, well, Sting showed up that day and he'd look like he wasn't really interested in being there. It's like, get the fuck out of here with that, man.
Well, I think, wasn't Sting say, well, like, he walked into it knowing that Hogan had an opportunity to pull creative control, so he was like, well, I'll believe when I believe it. That was his attitude?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So it's like, you know. But what's wild is, like, 6 months earlier, Hogan put over a guy. He put over Lex Luger on Nitro.
Yeah.
He
knew he
won
was
the
going to win
title.
it back the next pay-per-view. So.
I think it was like a week later. I think it was like the go home to the pay-per-view that they had Luger win the title. But it's like, you know, out of all the, you know, it's because he just, I don't know, he like probably didn't like where the Sting thing was headed. Didn't understand it, you know, watched The Crow, probably scared him. And, and so he was like, oh no, brother. I gotta make sure this guy doesn't get any farther because he scares me.
That could be. I don't know. It's just completely nonsensical. I remember watching it at the time, just thinking, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
It's right there. Just tell your story. And then afterwards they have to vacate the title because the finish was so shit that it just didn't make sense. And so they had a rematch, Hogan and Sting, a Super Brawl. And it is 20 minutes of Hogan beating the shit out of Sting.
Yeah.
And then Macho Man costs Hogan the match.
Yeah, terrible.
It's awful.
Yeah.
Awful. Like, Hogan just couldn't let Sting get a clean dub.
He was scared of him, man. The Crow really freaked him out.
Maybe.
Don't like that, brother. If you're dead, you stay dead, brother.
I don't know. Maybe.
You're going to turn into a bird now, brother. Yeah, I don't like it. So yeah. Anyways, there you go. Hey, let us know what dud dream matches you guys have seen in the comments below. Do us a solid, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and the notify bell. Also, we've got channel memberships. Click join to get access to a bunch of our old bonus episodes. We'll be bringing those back soon. Access to our question threads, and of course, the latest. This time, the Big Boom Predictions Challenge. The second part of it's going down at Full Gear. Wait, when is this episode going up? Saturday? Friday?
Friday. We'll do it Friday like normal.
Okay,
Friday
so
like
tomorrow,
normal.
Full Gear, the Predictions Challenge is on and cracking. So yeah, bring your booms to the big QT Marshall Costco guys match, and then the third Predictions Challenge is, of course, Survivor Series. So yeah, I did the thing that you suggested. Brought the boom with the new hat. So it's the Predictions Challenge hat looks like this, but it says boom right here instead.
Oh, see, what a great
Big
idea.
boom.
Good job, me.
This is the thing, though, Larson. This is the thing. I'll feel bad having gone through all that because I know you, more than everybody, participating, wants that hat so bad.
I want that hat.
And if you lose, you won't get the hat. And you'll be devastated. And I don't want to see you devastated.
Well, I'm preparing for devastation, so you should too.
What should we do for December's hat? Make it like green and red.
Good.
Okay. Well, we'll talk
do
about
that.
that. We'll talk about that one. Anyways, I think I have an idea, actually. I think I have an idea, but we'll talk about it.
There we
Anyway,
go.
it's going to do it for this episode of Countout. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Appreciate it. Till next time. We'll see you guys around.
Goodbye.